Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This chair is going to get me one of these days. Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, May 26th session of your Brookings City Council. Ask City Clerk to record attendance. Bonnie?
Mayor and council members, would you please respond with present when I call your name? Bacon?
Present.
Brink?
Present.
Corbett?
Present.
Hanson?
Present.
Niemeyer?
Present.
Tilton Burn?
Present.
Wendell?
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. Council, first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none. Any council comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Corbett?
Aye.
Hanson?
Aye.
Niemeyer?
Aye.
Tilton Burn?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Bacon?
Aye.
Brink?
Aye.
Yeah, it's approved. This time I'll have an open forum and presentations or reports. Anyone that cares to speak to the council, have a question, topic, something you'd like to see on future agendas, more than welcome to come up. And this would be anything that is not on the agenda tonight. You'll have an opportunity to speak to that later if you'd like. So, anyone have anything that you'd like to bring to the council's attention? Okay, I'll close the public forum. There are no contracts or change orders, and so under first readings, I'd call in Community Development Director Mike Struck. Get used to him because he's going to be up here quite a bit tonight, and he'll speak to Resolution 20-048. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. Resolution 20-048 is a resolution to annex two blocks of land just north of the Timberline Addition off of Steamboat Trail. It's approximately 13.7 acres in total, and Planning Commission recommends approval, and I'd stand for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve Resolution 20-48.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This time I'd ask the public if anyone cares to speak to that. The applicants care to speak to it? Or stand by for questions? Okay. Council comments or questions? Okay, Bonnie, please call the roll.
Hanson?
Aye.
Niemeyer?
Aye.
Tilton Burn?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Bacon?
Aye.
Brink?
Aye.
Corbett?
Aye. Okay, Resolution 20-48 is approved. Ask Community Development Director Mike Struck to continue on, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 20-049 is a resolution to annex 80 acres of property just south of the Timberline Addition. Developers proposing to bring this into city limits. This is identified within our comprehensive plan as phase 1 priority as part of the annexation plan. And the Planning Commission unanimously approved or recommended approval of the area to be annexed. I'd stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I'd entertain a motion to approve Resolution 20-49.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any public comment on this one or anyone care to speak to it? Please come up, introduce yourself, and I should tell you the microphones are on and they're sterilized, so you got it.
Andrew Ellsworth. Just a quick question or comment, if there are any plans for any parks in that area. Timberline's getting kind of large. It'd be nice. We were talking with our neighbors today, and everyone kind of felt like it'd sure be nice to have some parks nearby.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can put the Community Development Director, thanks Dr. Ellsworth, on the spot here.
There were some parks identified in this area as part of the Parks Master Plan. They tried to, through that planning process, look at creating more of kind of a service area model. It's actually kind of identified across a couple of different property owners. So it's something that we can certainly talk with the developer about. There's also plans for some linear parks closer to West 16th that would maybe provide an opportunity for some future trails as well.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Dr. Ellsworth, or?
Yeah,
Okay,
the mayor,
thank you.
if I
Yeah,
could.
City Manager?
This would, of course, be part of a future discussion if and when we do get a chance to do the park master plan update. The last one was done about 10 to 15 years
Okay.
ago. One of the things we have to keep before us is the impact of adding more and more parkland and the impact of adding more and more employees. Right now, as we've noted in the past, we've added 300 more acres of park with very little employees. And so we really have to prioritize where and when we add parks. So, of course, it would be part of a updated master plan discussion.
Okay. Well, we'll keep on the master plan then, so. All right, next. Council, any comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Councilman Niemeyer.
directed to Mike. Mike, approximately how many lots would we get on these 80 acres? And are we looking at, obviously you may not know what the design will look like, but are we going to try and square up our blocks a little bit, or are we going to have a bunch of cul-de-sacs again?
We have worked with the developer as far as trying to provide more connectivity, extending into the current timber line that's under construction, those street networks coming down. There are some limitations on the western portion of this property as far as from just low areas, difficult to serve. So that's where they're going to incorporate more of that linear green space and some ponds. And then we have talked to them about extending the infrastructure and streets to the east to the Knudsen land that would be available. But we are limiting some of the cul-de-sacs. There are some instances where you may see one or two cul-de-sacs in that area, but probably not as prevalent as you see in the northern portion of Timberline.
Thank you.
Council members, any other questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Hanson.
Aye.
Resolution 20-49 is approved. Now, introduction, first reading on ordinance 20-008. Yes. Community Development Director, to please continue, Mike.
Yes, so ordinance 20-008 is an ordinance to rezone property, and it's actually in relation to the first property that was under consideration for annexation this evening. It'll be two blocks located north of Steamboat Trail. It's currently zoned ag, and their proposal is to rezone it to a R1C single-family residential district. The comprehensive plan does identify this area as low-density residential development, and I would stand for any questions. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the rezoning on a unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you. There will be no vote on this tonight, but also an opportunity for people here to speak to this on the first reading. Anyone in the public here to speak to the ordinance 20-008? Okay, close the public hearing. Council members, comments or, I'm sorry, was there a question or a comment? Well, no, if you just please come up and so we can get the microphone there. They're good, but they're not that good. Yeah, please. State your name and a comment or question, please.
I'm Rick Intermill. I have the property to the south of this property. And I don't know the appropriate time to talk about this, but I've met with the Moriartys and Banner, a couple of associates from Banner. My concern isn't about because I'm not against the project in itself, but I am against, we have a water problem being caused by that already. And I don't know, like I said, I've talked to them about it. I would request that you guys maybe go out and look at that so that you can understand, since the property I live on has been declared in the floodplain, but the floodplain isn't our concern. The water coming off of the city is. Does that make any sense to you guys? Mm-hmm. And I'm already seeing, well, they built the retaining pond and then put pipes in it and put a cutout in it at ground level. And I addressed that with Mr. Moriarty and two banner representatives. I've got pictures, if you'd like to see them, of the current status of that and how much water is coming out of it. The water table, that pond has no, it's a sand bottom pond. So the water comes into it, disperses out. Then they dig the sides out of it. So my concern is about water. As far as the project itself, it's good to see the city grow. But I'm here asking, because I've already asked them, is there anything you guys can do to help me to get the water under control before anything goes on?
I don't have that answer for you, but I'm going to start looking at some smart people around the room here and see if they've got.
And would you like to see those pictures? Because I can bring the computer up.
You can sure submit those pictures to Mike and Jackie Lanning with the staff, and they can review them.
Okay? Because, like I say, I'm not here to slow anything
Nope.
down other than I don't think there's a better time than right now to address that problem. Am I correct?
Let's do it in the beginning.
That's my thoughts. So.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Keith, on that question there has to be a drainage study done anyway, right?
Yes, that would be correct, and the drainage study was done for the 80 acres that is currently under development. The rezoning is actually, if you can see on your map, it's the area north. It's around the there's a water feature up there, kind of where that red arrow is pointing, and so it's even further north than the existing development. So the rezoning is actually for these two blocks of land up there, and it's not really part of the things further to the south, because it'll actually drain, my understanding is, based upon the drainage plan, it'll drain to those ponds to the north.
So the 80 acres is more of a concern for Mr. Indermill than this is?
I would assume so, but
Okay.
the 80 acres isn't, that was part of the annexation.
Right.
That's not part of the rezoning.
Okay, all right. Well, we don't need another Windermere thing, so.
But I think what Mike's saying is regardless, there's a stormwater plan submitted with any development. Correct, Mike?
Correct. And so
Okay.
through the whole development process, the drainage plans really aren't prepared and submitted until you get to the preliminary plating stage. They need to get it annexed. They need to get the zoning in place so they know what kind of development standards they can design the lots to. That's when they're working on their drainage plan, and then they submit it for review.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, council members, anybody else have questions or comments? Okay, the public hearing will be at our next meeting on June 9th then, so. Okay, moving along then to ordinance 20-009.
Thank you,
Mike.
Mayor, council members, members of the audience. Ordinance 20-009 is an ordinance to the amendment of the subdivision regulations. And just to summarize, really what it is it's to move towards administrative plating. And so the changes are kind of highlighted within your packet, highlighted in yellow, but primary reason behind this is, there's some other communities around the state that have administrative plating in some form. And we looked at it as an opportunity to help with the overall process, in that oftentimes the Planning Commission is the body that is authorized to approve final plats, yet they're making motions contingent upon necessary drainage and utility easements or approved drainage plans, and really leaving it into the hands of the staff to determine when those requirements are being met. And so they're not actually approving the final plat in its final format anyways, and it changes often based upon if there's an additional drainage study that is needed. That drainage easement may get a little bit larger, or it could get potentially smaller. And oftentimes we don't have comments or utility easements back from some of our utility providers. So rather than holding them up for another month, they make the motion and really leave it in the hands of the staff. So what we were proposing with some changes with the administrative plating is through the final plat approval process, the city engineer and the community development director would provide a recommendation to the city manager, who would have the authority to approve the final plats. And the city manager currently has the ability, or has that authorization to sign off on the final plats, and that's something that the city commission, city council made that determination back in the early 2000s, but we've never really updated our ordinances. And so we looked at an opportunity to help streamline the process. We feel that this is a way to help address some of the carrying costs associated with the development process as well, and streamline the process and just make it a little bit more fluid. There's times where if a developer or applicant doesn't meet our deadline, they can be held up for about 5 to 6 weeks on the final plat approval process. Planning Commission did review this. They recommended on a 7-1 to vote to approve the ordinance change. The development review team did review this and discussed it, and they recommended approval of the ordinance change. And so with that, I'd stand for any council questions.
Does anyone in the public have comments or questions on this ordinance change? Seeing the council members, comments or questions?
Did Mr. Councilmember Brink?
I think two people were talking over each other. I didn't get it.
Go ahead. This is Holly, and my question is in regards to how this impacts the public's ability to provide comment or ask questions around the platting process. It would seem to me that currently, by holding a hearing with the Planning Commission, that allows the public an opportunity to come forward with questions and comments. And so if we eliminated that and made it just an administrative process, I'm wondering what that means for the opportunity for the public to speak on any of these matters.
So currently, the way the process is set up is there is really no public hearing notice requirements at the Planning Commission level. The public notice is provided by being placed on the agenda. The reality of it is when the final plat comes forward, if it's consistent with the approved preliminary plat, there's really absolutely no authority for the city to deny it. As long as that final plat is consistent with that approved preliminary plat, it's pretty much a rubber stamp type process. The public's opportunity to comment should really come at the preliminary platting stage, where they're laying out the development concept, they're looking at densities, they're looking at the grading, the street network, and that would be the more appropriate time to participate in that public process.
Mike, I would just add that preliminary plat, not only the public process could occur at the Planning Commission, but does that then also come to the City Council as well? So there's another opportunity for public input.
That
But
is
then also many times there's a rezoning associated with it somewhere in that process. So you have not only the preliminary plat at the Planning Commission, preliminary plat at the City Council meeting, but also potentially oftentimes public hearing and opportunities for public input during the rezoning all throughout the Planning Commission and City Council as well. And Mike, maybe you could talk to that.
Yeah, that is correct. And so in the development process, you're seeing a little bit of a glimpse of it tonight. Is it starts with the annexation, then it moves to the rezoning, and then once the rezoning or the zoning is in place, then they start with the preliminary platting. And preliminary plats in Brookings are reviewed by the Planning Commission. They provide a recommendation, and it comes to the City Council for the final approval. And then with final plats, the way it is right now, final plats just go to the Planning Commission, and they approve final plats. And then the city manager signs off on them once all the contingencies have been met. And so, yes, that process, that one step, I would say 99% of our plats generate no comment. The last plat that I recall that generated some comment was information that was completely out of the realm of the Planning Commission's purview anyways, in that the Planning Commission is not responsible for determining sanitary sewer capacity issues, and that's what the questions were related to. Even so, we're putting our planning commission in a difficult position right now with the drainage plans because they're asked to handle drainage questions, yet they do not have the expertise or the knowledge to address those. But those are some of the comments that are fielded by the planning commission. And that's really at the staffing level with the city engineer and her staff that review those drainage plans and have that expertise.
Any other questions, council, comments?
Yeah, this is Councilmember Brink, and I just had a question. Mike, if you could, please let me know what the, you mentioned it was a 7-1 vote out of the Planning Commission to move this forward. Do you know why the one individual voted against it?
For the exact same comments that Councilmember Tilton Burn mentioned is the public ability to comment on final plats. And that was one of the concerns of one of the Planning Commission members.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is Holly again. I'm sorry, I have a follow-up question. I'm noting that in the document it shows that this would be a change not only to final plat but replat approvals as well. Could you go into a little bit of what that would mean for replats and in the replat process, is there the ability for changes to be made to the original proposed plat?
So the replat process is essentially the same as the final plat. And what we are seeing a majority of our replats right now is over time, many people would subdivide their property illegally through footage description, which is against city ordinance, and it get filed and recorded. And so you might have property that is lot 15 in the west 20 feet of lot 16. Well, we require that when they come through with proposals for new projects or something like that, we require them to replat, combining those two legal descriptions into one. It also assists with building code issues. The technical aspects of the building code require that any time that you cross a property line, you're supposed to fire rate that particular wall. And so it creates issues on the construction side of things, so we require replatting. And basically what it is it's just cleaning up the outer boundaries of the land that they own and combining them into one lot. Really doesn't have much impact at all in regards to subdivisions. It's usually in older existing neighborhoods that we see them. Once in a while we do see them in newer developments, and sometimes it's when they decide to split one of the existing lots and two neighbors want to purchase them, and so we'll require them to replat and combine those lots together for each common ownership. But it follows the same process as a final plat. It's not occurring at a large scale that impacts the overall preliminary plat.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mike. And we'll have public hearing and vote on this on June 9th. Okay, moving into public hearings and second readings, ask the city clerk to address this issue.
Mayor, council members, and members of the audience. This is a public hearing which is required by South Dakota State Law 352-1.2 to hold a public hearing for the reissuance of any retail license if one or more of the licensee's employees have been subjected to a criminal penalty for a violation of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law. 3 alcohol license holders failed an alcohol compliance check, which was conducted by the Brookings Police Department in April of 2019. This is a first offense for each of these license holders. These license holders were invited to attend tonight's city council meeting, and there are representatives from each of those 3 license establishments here tonight if you have any questions for them. Staff does recommend the reissuance of the retail on-off malt licenses for these license holders.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Obviously, there's got to be somebody who wants to speak to this, so you come up, please, and just speak to it. Open public hearing at this time. Just hold off, then council entertain a motion to approve this motion.
So moved.
Second. Second.
Motion and a second. Okay. Anyone in the audience care to speak to this? Council members, comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
All right, that motion is approved, and they'll be forwarded then to the state for approval. Under other business, ask the Assistant City Manager to speak to Resolution 20-45.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. The city is progressing forward with acquiring an electric vehicle charging station and will take advantage of a $3,000 rebate program offered by Missouri River Energy Services. Several location options were approved by the Joint Powers Board, and it was determined that the most accessible and cost-effective choice would be in the new parking lot on the south side of the City and County Government Center. City staff and the electrical contractor have completed the site prep work and are awaiting a finalized installation date from the vendor. The resolution before you would update the consolidated fee schedule to set electric vehicle charging station rates. Electric vehicle charging station rates are proposed to be $1 per hour for the first 3 hours, $2 per hour for any time over those first 3 hours, and fee exempt for use by the City of Brookings and Brookings County if either entity was to add an electric vehicle charging or an electric vehicle to their fleet in the future. The electric vehicle charging station will charge most electric vehicles within 4 hours, which would provide a total cost of $5 for a full charge on average. Staff recommends approval of the resolution as presented, and I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Council entertain a motion to approve Resolution 20-45.
So moved.
Second.
Now, you're just biting at the bullet, aren't you, Hope? I can
Oh,
tell.
I'm happy about this. It finally got done.
You want to go ahead and speak to it before I open public comment?
Yeah, this was kind of a brainchild of mine a couple years ago, and we finally got it accomplished. I really appreciate it. Not only do we have it for people that come in to visit and they can spend time downtown while they're getting their car charged as they're passing through, or if we have local people that have cars that maybe have more than one car that maybe their charger isn't working, they have an opportunity to use this one. I think it's a step forward in our progressive mentality that we have in this town.
Public want to comment on this charging station? Or are you speaking to it? The one will be right outside this building in the bigger parking lot on the south side, so you can probably see it if you look out there. So, Council, any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, this is Holly.
Yes, Holly.
I am just curious. I'm also very excited about this. I'm curious to know, is there some kind of national listing or resource available for those who own electric cars so that if they're driving through an area, they can find out if there are some of these charging stations? Is there some kind of directory for those folks that this would be listed on?
Yeah, that's a great question. The best way to do it is going to be through a mobile app. There will be an app that you can find on your phone. It will be provided through ChargePoint, which is the company that's providing this. And then you'll actually be able to pay and everything right through the app, kind of similar to Uber or Lyft, where you'll be able to hook your credit card into it, and you can do it all through a Wi-Fi connection. So that is part of the service that comes with it. It is a smart device in the sense that it does have wireless capacities, so it does hook up right with cell phones. And then that's in addition to the marketing and information that the city will put out as well.
That's wonderful. As a follow-up question, are we teaming up with the Chamber or CVB or any of those other entities so that they also can be sharing this information?
Yeah, we're just awaiting that finalized installation date. They did say it would be about 2 to 3 weeks out, and I've put that request in a couple weeks back. So once we get that date set, then we can certainly coordinate with the Chamber and our other peers in the community and publicize this event.
Thank you.
Councilman Niemeyer.
So the other question I have, Jake, I just want to make sure the public understands that this charging station should be able to charge any electric vehicle, correct?
That is correct. It should charge any electric vehicle. The one caveat to that is Tesla has a specific charger that comes with it, but every Tesla comes with an adapter that will plug into this type of station. So every Tesla owner will have an adapter that comes with their car that they'll have to have with them to plug into this station. But essentially, yes, every vehicle will be able to be charged by this.
Council, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tiltonburn.
Aye.
Your resolution's approved, and Jake, thanks for your work on this. I know you put a lot of hours in getting this ready, so thank you. Council, looking ahead to June 9th session, we'll have executive session at 5 o'clock, and then the regular meeting will be the second reading on the first two readings, ones we had first two readings. We'll have some board appointments and anything else you'd like to speak to at this time to have on the future agendas. Seeing none, at this time I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. So moved.
Okay, I take that as a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Good night.